Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our first education for the Florida Chapter CMAA for 2021. And we're starting off with a very, very special opportunity to spend some time with Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, Colonel Dan. We're excited to have him here today. But as you know, with these seminars, we like to have our partners do a little introduction. So I'm going to turn this over to Brian Idle from Peacock and Lewis and let him tell you a little bit about his relationship with Colonel Dan. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And what a special day it is for Brian Idle and Peacock and Lewis. You know, many of you know my relationship and respect for Jack Nicklaus and my passion for the game of golf. And many of you that know me well know that my mark on the game of golf will be left off of the golf course. And I like everyone, I strive to get better. It's not happening at the clip that I would wish it to, but it was the summer of 2019 that Jack Nicklaus introduced me to a mission along the west shore of Lake Michigan. And he introduced me to a very special man who conceived a very special mission in his life. He was an F-16 and is a F-16 fighter pilot and a PGA golf professional. And I don't know if anyone else was inspired by the elite class of special people that fly F-16s when they watched the movie Top Gun. But it left a mark, certainly in my life and in my mind. And here I'm going to meet somebody that shares my passion for the game of golf and flies F-16. So before I was heading into the meeting to meet this special person, my wife and I, Julie, had driven down from northern Michigan and for this meeting. And I discussed my strategy with Julie. Like everything in life, I always discuss it with Julie before I act on it. And you know, like every great wife will do or a great spouse, she gave me the assurance and confidence and encouragement that I would measure up to this task and this meeting. And so I prayed a silent prayer, kind of gathered my thoughts, got out of the car and started walking into the meeting. And I bounced one final thought off of Julie before I walked into the meeting. And there was silence. And I turned around and Julie stayed in the car. And I thought, well, I'm not abandoned, but you know, I thought going into this meeting, I just didn't want to fail. So I walked into the meeting and instantly was humbled in the presence of this special person. And I learned about folds of honor and the special mission that he had created in his life to raise scholarship money for the families of the fallen and the wounded who were serving our country. And I'm so proud to be in his squadron, to be his wingman, and to serve our country in a very small way. I didn't serve in the military, and the day that I met Colonel Dan and some other fighter pilots, I stood out overlooking the golf course. Jack was there with his team. They were shaping holes, and I admitted to the fighter pilots that I had this deep guilt for not having served our country. And they assured me that what we were doing at the American dunes would more than make up for not serving in the military. And that's why there are very special people that do what these men do. So I encourage you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight with Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, call sign Noonan.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much. Give me a thumbs up. Can everybody hear me okay? Brian, can you hear me? Awesome.
Gotcha.
Blessed to be with you. And, I love that introduction. And I would say that, one of the objectives for our time together today is that we're inspired to serve. And, I look at our country right now and it seems like everything's a red issue or a blue issue. And I'm honored to serve up a little red, white, and blue today. And I'm just a huge believer because, God's given me this blessing in life that when you reach out to serve others, you're actually the one that is being helped. And Brian, I say it all the time. Some of the greatest patriots I've ever met have never put on a uniform. We're Americans, and that's what makes this country special. Is we're here to support one another. Again, I hope that I can serve up a little inspiration today during our 40 minutes or so together. And really blessed to be on the walk. I'm going to talk about American Dunes at the end, save the best for last, and for Brian and his team as we wrap up. So I'll jump into that, but I'm going to jump into the jet to start this out. And I always like to start, common ground. Everything good in my life is directly connected to the game of golf. I'm a PGA golf professional, built a golf course in Tulsa called the Patriot, which is a Robert Trent Jones Jr. design. Have an amazing general manager there, Ali, who was at the national meeting in Dallas that I talked about, who's a member of the Club Managers Association, and up here at American Dunes. So I understand the golf side, the ops side. I understand probably more than anything that this game is a labor of love, and not unlike the military, we wouldn't do it unless we really loved it, because there are a lot of places we can go make more money. But I never forget that at the core of our business, we're making people happy. And that is a gift. The hard work you do, fighting through the 5% of the people that are never happy in this business and can do the job better than you can do it. We all laugh, but man, is that true? Only business in the world that everybody knows it better than you. But doing it with a smile on our face, because we know we're doing the greater good, and bonded by this game of golf, and what it represents in these clubs and the cultures that we create. And so I hope at the end of our time together that you'll leave this armed with something, either personally or professionally, that sticks with you from this day forward, that you didn't tune in to this virtual Zoom that you had this morning. And that's my hope and prayer, that I can be an open vessel for God, and he works through me to touch you and give you something that's really meaningful and lasts a long time. So back to the flight, as Brian said. This first photo of me is at my other job. I'm here at American Dunes this morning up in Michigan, and tomorrow afternoon I'll be in Florida being a fighter pilot. And my job as a fighter pilot is really the coolest in the world right now. I'm an aggressor pilot, which is highly ironic, because Top Gun is a movie that inspired me to be a fighter pilot. And basically now I'm Viper. So it's a small squadron of us that operate out of Destin, Florida at Eglin Air Force Base. There's about 25 of us that the government pours into, and we are experts on Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, all of the, big enemies that don't love what the U.S. stands for, and want to do what they can to prevent us from living out this experiment, if you will, called the United States of America. And we bring in the best fighter pilots in the world. And we use this proverb all the time, Proverbs 27. It's iron sharpens iron as one person sharpens another. And I think the same spirit that I use as an instructor, I'd use with this group here. So I'll be your instructor pilot today. And we're trying to make the pointy end of the spear. Our fighter pilots flying F-22s, F-35s, the most sophisticated fighter jets in the world, most capable warriors. We're trying to make them better. And we try to make them better in the cockpit. We try to make them better out of the cockpit. And that's, being a better spouse, being a better parent, taking better care of themselves, So it doesn't end when we shut the motors down. It is a lifestyle, a culture that we live as fighter pilots, always striving to be our best, rarely achieving those moments, but being honest and open with each other on how we can get better. So when I step to go fly the fighter jet tomorrow, the last brief we get is from the weather guy. And the term that we want to hear is CAVU. So this is a fighter pilot acronym that stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. And it's the perfect days to go fly. Those steely blue skies where we can go max out in the fighter jet. And years ago, this became a personal mantra for me, not just to achieve CAVU in the fighter jet, but also in life. And I've just came out with a new book in November. And, God is taking this to extraordinary places. And it's kind of going to be my focus of the talk today, but this concept of CAVU and how we achieve it in our lives. And essentially, I went through some challenging times and developed a personal code of living that's comprised of 10 lines of effort, or LOEs, basically 10 things that I do every day without fail. And I realized as I built my own kind of bubble that we spend so much time in life, wrapped around the outcome. And rarely do we have any control on how things turn out. But every day we have control of our process. And for me, CAVU represents the ability to engineer a life of fulfillment each and every day. And I'm not going to go through every one of the LOEs because we don't have time. And I hope that you'll take the opportunity to pick the book up. I'll talk about that at the end. But it is, it's an awesome way to live. And every day living a life chasing fulfillment rather than success as the world defines it, and understanding that, happiness is fleeting on our best days. And happiness is an interesting thing because I think the more we chase it, often the more unhappy we are. But when we find fulfillment, that often transcends into a life of happiness. So let me start unpacking this a little bit more when we talk about the LOEs. So the third LOE in the book is this term I love, synchronicity. And so I define this as chance with a purpose. And synchronicity is all around us, right? Each and every day, people and experiences are uniquely brought into our path, hopefully guiding us to our essence, to help us evolve, to help us make the smart decisions in life. But understand, you got to be watching for these moments. And that was a big evolution for me in life, where I stopped kind of being this single seat fighter pilot, always knowing exactly where I was going. And I opened up the aperture of how I looked at life and how I interacted with other people, and really started seeking these signs of synchronicity and connecting with the Force, if you will. I'm a Star Wars geek. You can call it the Force, you can call it the Holy Spirit if you're a Catholic like I am, but there's a connective tissue in this world, but you have to be watching. And I would also tell you that when you recognize these moments of synchronicity, and you're inspired, that they're meaningless unless you have the courage or the faith to take action. So let me explain this concept a little bit deeper. So I was born in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and son of a college professor, and he would pontificate on all types of different subjects, but he always finished with this sturdy refrain. He was like, son, the only truly successful people in life are those rare individuals who identify their passion. And we use this term growing up, and have the reckless faith to pursue it. And so I'm 12 years old. A moment of synchronicity. One of my very first was I meet my first fighter pilot, Steve Reno Courtwright. He's my first man crush. This guy walked right out of the movie Top Gun. And I remember playing golf the next day with my dad. And I'm like, hey, Dad, I know what I want to do with my life. And I said, I want to be a golf pro and a fighter pilot. His response was very interesting. He said, son, can you tell me which way an airplane takes off? And so I'm 12, right? And I'm like, well, Dad, I think it's into the wind. He said, that's exactly right. And he was preparing me for these inevitable headwinds that would stand between this 12-year-old boy and these two very unlikely dreams. But what I had no idea is how God would put these two things together to send me on this trajectory that I would have never imagined in my life, that brings me here with the Club Managers Association in Florida today via a Zoom. So onward, I graduate high school from Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I head north to the University of Kansas to play golf. Again, this theme of golf. Two defining moments of synchronicity occurred when I was at the University of Kansas. Very first one, end of my freshman year, the sunflower blows through the room at the Sigma Chi house. And that's a metaphor for a hot chick, by the way. I know it's early in the morning. Her name is Jackie, and she is my wife and my CEO of everything that matters in life, the mother of our 5 daughters, my oldest a freshman at Notre Dame all the way down to a first grader. And we've been on this journey together, married for 22, together for 30. And I'll give you the one piece of marriage advice that I got, because this is the most important relationship in our lives. And it's really easy. I mean, you look at the marriage crisis we're dealing with in this country, and it's easy to get down and have the things that you don't like about your spouse drive you crazy. I started this about 7 years ago. I give my wife one compliment a day. And it's amazing just the paradigm shift subconsciously when you think about something you admire and like about your wife or your husband, depending on who you are on this call, and are intentional about filling them up that way. And so take that with you. Next moment of synchronicity for me at Kansas actually occurred in the classroom. So I signed up for what I thought would be the easiest class at the University of Kansas, Sports Psychology 101. I walk in first day, pretty much the entire basketball and football team is already there. So I'm like, awesome, I'm in the right place. And I sit down. The professor shows up about 10 minutes late. And he actually texted me this morning. So we've stayed very close since my time at Kansas. And he rolls to the front of the room, does not ignores the chaos in the class going on. The football's getting thrown back and forth, et cetera, and walks up to the front of the room, and he writes this word on the board, volition. Gets to the podium, and he says, can anybody tell me what this word means? Crickets. And he said, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's the most powerful word in the world. He said, volition is the power of choice. He said, every day you wake up, right, you're free to choose. You can be positive or negative. You can choose to build people up or tear them down. You can choose to be uncommon. He said, but understand the choices that you make will culminate to write the legacy of your life. And that moment of synchronicity that brought me together with Dr. David Cook, who is one of my founding members here at American Dunes, changed me forever. Is he armed me with this undeniable accountability and opportunity that come through our choices each and every day. And I made the choice right then and there that I was going to chase this dream I'd had since I was 12 years old. And I brought a little video to give you a background on what I get to do for my other job when I'm not a golf pro and I'm not at Folds of Honor. All right, so I am blessed, right, to live my dream that I've had since I was a 12-year-old boy. But like the title of my book, Fly Into wind, it was not easy. And there's a beautiful parallel to that title, because even though I fly one of the most powerful fighter jets in the world, we always take off into the wind, right? Because we need resistance to ascend, and our lives are no different, right? These forces, these challenges, they're what help us evolve and help us ascend to the highest level. So I want to talk to you about the training to become an F-16 pilot, because again, two defining lessons that I learned in my life that I take with me every day in my code of living, CAVU. So when you go through the training as an F-16 pilot, it takes about 2.5 years. The United States taxpayer, thank you all very much, spends about $8 million per pilot training us. And I remember showing up to the first day of pilot training. I am like so excited. It's in Wichita Falls, Texas, Shepherd Air Force Base. I'm in my spit shine dress blue uniform and roll in this room. There's 45 of us in this room. Most of them not like me. Most of them are Air Force Academy grads, 4.0 engineering students. I played golf at Kansas, was a liberal arts major, and was a B student. And somehow get into this elite training program. And I'm in the classroom, and Colonel walks in. We all jump up to attention, and he said, "Hey, at ease, take your seats," and gives us this 15-minute inspirational talk about having the opportunity to chase our boyhood dreams, on and about flying the most powerful jets in the world. But then he finishes and he said, "Hey, this is the greatest scholarship ever." He said, "We're going to spend $8 million per pilot training you." He said, "But the realities are only 4.8% of the people are going to make it through this training. So less than 5% will make it through." And I remember looking around the room and doing, the bro inventory and saying, there's no way, right? The reality of this sets in, and it was crushing. That I looked at everybody in this room and immediately was limiting what was possible for myself based on how intimidated I was by everybody around me. And so I went home that night and walked in our house and we were renting. And I told Jackie, I'm like, "Hey, babe, don't bother unpacking the boxes in the garage, because I just found out today there's probably no way I'm going to successfully make it through this program." And I went to bed that night really, really depressed by the headwinds that I was facing. And I started a new routine the next morning. And we showed up very early at pilot training, sometimes around 4:30 in the morning. And I set my alarm 30 minutes early the next day. And I got up and I prayed. And I have not stopped setting my alarm 30 minutes early, 21 years later, and praying. And that was really the first time in life that I faced a challenge that was bigger than myself. And I unlocked, the greatest wingman in my life. And before that point, I was a faith-based person, but I never really dedicated myself to prayer. And real prayer and opening the book every day. And it's awesome. The greatest lesson that I've ever learned, the best thing the U.S. military ever gave me, because without that training, I would have never instituted part of that is my life routine. So I harness the power of prayer. I make it through the first phase of training when a lot of people obviously did not. I get to the F-16. Can't believe I've made it to Phoenix, Arizona, fighter country, USA, and you get 4 flights in the F-16, and your 5th flight is solo. So the first 4 flights, we have what's called a D model, so a 2-seat version of the F-16, and then you get into our primary model, which is the C model, which is a single seat, where air to air, air to ground, you're by yourself. And I'll never forget getting signed off by my instructor after 4 rides and walking out the next afternoon and looking at this F-16, $45 million fighter jet, goes 2.5 times the speed of sound. It has more horsepower than the entire starting grid in a NASCAR race. And I'm settled into this jet, and I'm looking around and I'm like, man, I literally don't know what half the buttons and switches do. And they're like, don't worry about that. You're not ready to kill people yet. You're just learning to fly this airplane. And so I roll down the canopy and I hit start 2. There's no keys in the F-16. You hit this little button, jet starts. I go fly this thing for about an hour and a half. And you've got an instructor in another airplane in close formation, shadowing you. But ultimately, the takeoffs and landings are up to you. And so I land the jet and I pull into the chocks and shut the motor down. I'll never forget raising that big bubble canopy you see there. And it feels like a cold wind hits me. And it's 120 degrees out. It's July in Phoenix. And that's when you realize that you've just spent the last hour and a half in, pure survival mode, fight or flight. And in this moment, I feel this like total peace. And this epiphany hits me like it has a handful of times in my life. And it was a voice, right? And for me, obviously I'm a God person, and it's like, hey, go before you're ready. Don't ever doubt me. If you go, I will be with you. And it unlocked this powerful concept in my life that I've harnessed. And I tell people, man, life is so short. Just pick up a family photo album like I did last night with my daughter here at American Dunes, and it goes so fast. And I'm a huge believer that the people you admire in life, that, the greats, the Jack Nicklaus's, whoever it is that you admire, that this is a DNA that ties them together. They go before they're ready. Stop planning, start doing. And that's exactly what I did. I left training and I went before I was ready. I was in combat 3 months after I left F-16 training. And to put that in context, there are fighter pilots that will never go to combat. So I'm over there, I'm dropping the president's mail, delivering the president's mail, if you will, in the form of bombs and bullets. I am getting shot at. I'm a vampire flying all night missions. Thankfully for me, and we don't have time, I'm not going to jump into combat on this Zoom. We'll save those stories for the bar. I made it home safely to my family. And I will tell you, I created the ultimate job description. I'm a fighter pilot and I'm a golf pro. But I will also tell you very honestly, I was a pretty average guy. I was very myopic in my walk. I was probably drinking a little too much whiskey, thinking about, hey, what fun thing is next for me? Not being, necessarily a great spouse or a great dad. And then I had this other moment of intervention in my life. Again, just a huge transformation and evolution for me. And this time it was not in a fighter jet, but on a commercial airliner. And I was headed from Chicago O'Hare to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and to what was the Grand Haven Golf Club, which is now American Dunes. And this is how this synchronicity all pulls itself together, which is so cool. But as I walked on this flight, there was a corporal in dress army greens. I didn't think much of it. We landed in Grand Rapids about midnight. And as we pull into the gate, the captain comes over the PA and announces that we have an American hero on board. We're carrying the remains of Corporal Brock Bucklin, who was killed in Iraq, and his identical twin brother, Corporal Brad Bucklin, is in first class and has brought him those 7,000 miles home. Captain makes a request that we all remain in our seats until Brock's remains had been removed from the right cargo hold. And that night I watched the Bucklin family on the darkest night of their life. And it was his brothers, his wife, his parents, and his 4-year-old son, as his American flag draped coffin inched down the cargo ramp. And the finality of the sacrifice hit me in a way that it never had over the skies of Iraq or on the ground in Iraq. That when these men and women make that ultimate sacrifice, the family that is left behind. And as this ceremony finishes itself up, I wipe away my tears and I grab my backpack and I stand up only to see that more than half the people have gotten off the plane that night and nowhere to go, right, except that blanket of freedom that we will all sleep under, courtesy of Corporal Brock Bucklin. and the 1 million veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. And, you know, in this moment of great despair, and I was so disappointed to be an American that night. So many emotions going through me, and I felt a hand on my shoulder. And I look back, and there was nothing there. But the only thing I will tell you for certain on this virtual call today is, you know, it was the hand of God. And he picks the least among us, right? What's the saying? Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. And I certainly qualify there, but he also picks the willing. And so I'll never forget, I called my wife walking off the jet bridge that night, and I said, I've got a mission in my life. And we went before we were ready, and we started the Folds of Honor. And we started it above our garage, and I wrote down our mission, and that was to honor the sacrifice and educate the legacy. And that has not wavered. We provide scholarships to spouses and children who've had somebody killed or disabled defending our freedoms. And our first event started right here. Then was Grand Haven, where I'm sitting right now, but will be American Dunes on May 2nd when we open up. And we had 67 people show up, and we raised $8,500. And but that was the day that I unlocked, again, this beautiful irony in my life, that when you reach out to help someone, you are actually the one that is being helped. And it has been, you know, such a blessing. And as we turned and got started, we turned to the game of golf. And I called the president of the PGA of America, Brian Whitcomb, and I said, I've got this idea called Patriot Golf Day. And what if golf courses across the country could unite on one day, and we ask golfers to put service before themselves, to play the most heroic round of their life and make a donation on behalf of Folds of Honor, so we can provide education to these families. And again, in the spirit of going before you're ready, the PGA of America said, yeah, we'll figure it out. And in 3 months, we had put this program together. We signed up over 3,000 golf courses, and we raised $1 million. And it was just this, you know, incredible moment for me to combine the game of golf that I love so much with my passion for serving in the military. And I think, you know, every day the challenge for each of us is combining what you do with who you are. And that's the peak experience of life. But I don't believe you can do that without serving others. And I know everybody's calendars are busy, right? But find time to serve others. And I will ask you to serve Folds. I mean, we've got 300 plus golf courses in the Florida chapter of the Club Managers Association. Make sure your golf course is signed up for Memorial Day weekend, and ask your members, ask them to make a donation to support us. You can sign up at patriotgolfday.com or at Folds of Honor, but that's how we serve others. So I'm feeling really good at this point. We've got Folds of Honor up and running, and I'm like, what's next? And so I always loved the Super Bowl commercials that Budweiser made. I mean, we love them, right? I mean, they're such an awesome brand. And I was like, boy, if we could align with Budweiser. And so in the spirit of go before you're ready, I bought a Southwest Airlines ticket, and I flew to St. Louis, and I cold called Anheuser-Busch and rang the front doorbell, no appointment, didn't know a soul. And I meet this guy, and my meeting up there, Rocky Sickman, and Rocky is an American hero. Turns out he was a hostage in Iran for 444 days, United States Marine. We have this great hour-long conversation, but at the end of it, he says, hey, Major Dan, you're a great guy, but Anheuser-Busch gets hundreds of requests a day from charities across the country, and no offense, they're not run above somebody's garage. And I'll never forget, he said, this will never, never, never happen. And so I left St. Louis and went back to the airport, kind of tail between my legs. And it took me a couple of days to rally that resilient spirit in my heart, and understand that every day, right, our lives are defined by what we do when it doesn't go our way. period. And it happens multiple times every day. And we're going to hit those moments and hit those intersections in life and understand that our volition, right, our choices that we make when it doesn't go our way, those are what define us. And I brought a little video to show you what happened with Anheuser-Busch, because what I did is I got back on Southwest Airlines every 6 months for the next 3 years, and I rang that same doorbell without an appointment. And I brought a video to show you how our relationship with Anheuser-Busch has shaped up since then.
Dear Folds of Honor, my name is Haley Grace Williams.
I am 21 and studying to be a nurse because I have a calling to help people. A calling inspired by my father. Don't need him. My everyday hero, Army veteran John Williams.
John, come on back.
Right before Desert Storm, my dad severely injured his back during a training exercise.
That maintains the integrity of the space.
His injury was so severe, today he has 2 steel rods and 6 screws fusing his spine together.
Now I'm driving a bus part-time to work whole 8 hours. I'm in too much pain.
Worse than the physical toll has been the emotional one. While his unit shipped off to war, my dad watched from a hospital room. To this day, he feels a sense of guilt. He feels as though he wasn't there for his buddies when they needed him. With our family's financial situation, the burden of paying for school is all on my shoulders. Right now, I'm working 40 hours a week to pay the final year, but at a cost of nearly $44,000, affording my final year simply may not be possible. Receiving your scholarship would change my life and set me up to change the lives of veterans like my father. I truly thank you for your consideration.
Sincerely, Haley Grace Williams. Hello? Hey, John.
Yeah,
Hey, Adam. Nice to meet you.
same here. Wait a minute.
Oh my gosh, you're Adam Driver. I'm in shock. Can't believe you're here.
Wait, is he with you?
Yeah, they sent me your letter. I was in the military too.
Wow.
You were in the Army, right?
Yeah.
Right before Desert Storm. Is that right? You injured
Yes.
yourself? Same. I was
Oh, wow.
injured right before. I was supposed to deploy to Iraq with my unit. I felt so guilty that I didn't really get to finish my service.
Probably the first person that ever said, I understand, truly understood.
And then now you're in school now.
Yes.
And that's when you reached out to Folds of Honor. Then they reached out to me and they told me to let you know that you got the scholarship.
Oh my goodness.
But also, Budweiser and I thought that you shouldn't have to worry about school. So Budweiser is going to be covering your all remaining school expenses for the rest of next year.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to worry about it anymore. Thank you.
Your family's commitment to country is only matched by your commitment to each other. Your hard work, dedication, and caring spirit exemplify what Folds of Honor and Budweiser stand for. It means everything. I'm shaking as I keep moving.
Thank you.
Okay, here I come. I can't wait.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Folds of Honor has been the official charity for Anheuser-Busch and Budweiser for the last 8 years. They've donated over $19 million to educate, the spouses and children of our fallen and disabled. A very easy way, again, to support Folds of Honor. I know you guys are buying lots of beer at your clubs down there. And there are lots of different options. Please consider supporting your Budweiser wholesaler and getting that in. Every summer, Budweiser does a red, white, and blue campaign where they turn their cans red, white, and blue. They donate $1 for every case sold to us, and just an awesome program, and a great reminder to all of us that, you know, we're defined by what we do and it doesn't go our way. Life is not supposed to be easy. Life is supposed to be great, and that resilient spirit is the one, you know, quality, that heart on fire, when you can stoke it right here and fight through those challenges that will define us. And you know, this summer was a challenging one, and I'll share this statistic with you, and something that we're doing with Anheuser-Busch now and several of our other partners. When we saw all this racial unrest in America, and I think we all agree that, you know, we want to find equality in our country. And Folds of Honor is very proud that 41% of our recipients are minorities. And humble opinion of one is that, you know, we're only going to find equality through the gift of education in this country. So one more reason, I think, to support Folds of Honor, to make sure you're registered for Patriot Golf Day. Again, patriotgolfday.com to register. And this is our website, foldsofhonor.org. If anybody's so moved, share this with your membership, right? Ask people to join our squadron. It's $13 a month for the 13 folds that bring the flag to its iconic shape of freedom. Make a donation, take 5 minutes to spread the word on behalf of Brock Bucklin and the 1 million veterans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us, and say thank you, right? Because freedom is not free. I'm proud to be in the 0.5% of this country that puts on the uniform and says, hey, we may not be perfect, but we're willing to die for our freedoms and what this country stands for. So I'm going to wrap up full circle and go back to Brian. I love to finish where we started. American Dunes. So, like most great stories in life, and I always say, you know, tell someone a fact, they might learn it. Tell them a story, that's what lives in their hearts and minds. And my family's golf course, the Grand Haven Golf Club, had been here for 20 years, and like a lot of golf courses, was struggling. My dad was 80 years old, and we're like, you know, what do we do? Because this is where Folds of Honor started. It was very sentimental and near and dear to us. And I threw a Hail Mary pass and got a meeting with Mr. Jack Nicklaus at the Bears Club. And, you know, Brian obviously did that project down there, and it's amazing. But I went down and I asked Mr. Nicklaus, I said, hey, what do you think I should do? I want to save this place because of what it represents and what it stands for, but I can't do it by myself. And I talk about force multiplying in my book. And when you can put together great teams, it's the 1 + 1 + 1 does not equal 3. And I went down to Mr. Nicklaus and I said, you know, will you help me? And when you honestly ask people for help on this walk, it's incredible what will happen too. And he jumped on board and waived his $3 million design fee and said, hey, Noonan, you get your friends, I'll get my friends, and we'll see what we can do. And so this has been a 3-year journey of flying into the wind. It started from the ashes, literally a golf course that was, you know, running on fumes, barely making it. Great challenges along this 3-year journey, flying into the wind the entire time. But it is those moments, I'm telling you, that give you the opportunity to ascend to the highest places. And that's what we've done up here at American Dunes. We're going to open May 1st and 2nd of this year. We've been going at it for 3 years. I'm going to talk about the squadron bar that Brian designed here in just a second. But in the spirit of me talking too much, I wanted to show you one last video as we wrap up our time together and give you a sneak peek for a golf course that is unlike any other in this world, because it's why is Folds of Honor. It is here to raise money and raise awareness for this mission. It stands for God and country and our flag. It is not political. Everything that matters in this sphere of Folds of Honor is going to be on display, and we're so excited to share it with the world. It's a public golf course, so it is built for everybody in this country. So I'll play this last video before we talk about the squadron bar and wrap up here. I really can't believe we've made it to this moment. You know, truly great stories in life are a combination of fact, truth, and the story. Those are the great ones that live in your hearts and minds. And this is a great story, and the why that brings us together, and the foundation that I truly believe in my heart will separate American Dunes from any golf course that's ever been constructed in this country. It is so easy to wake up and be complacent in this journey of life that is so short, but I truly believe that the ultimate accountability we're all going to have is we're given unique time and talent in our lives, and how did we use those to leave it better than we found it? And that's the pure good of what American Dunes is.
Well, American Dunes is very special to me because of what it's for. It's special because of you, because of the belief that you had in me, what you really dedicated your life for. You know, those kind of things are very special to me. And I don't know, it made it was what the golf course turned out. You know, it was going to be a special golf course. But while we were doing it, we may as well make it good. So that's sort of the way I felt about it. And, you know, anytime somebody believes in me and gives me the freedom to do something that I think will not only benefit something, but also create something that people will enjoy and love, that's what I want to do.
I'll take it.
Take care.
You too, Jack.
It's really neat to do a golf course for a purpose. This is definitely for a purpose.
All right. So you are all invited to come up from Florida when it's hot and sticky down there in paradise in July and August to make the pilgrimage to American Dunes. It's been amazing. We opened up a lottery for tee times on December 15th, and about 40% of our times are already sold for this upcoming season. And I think when you take a tee time, if my GM or Golf Pro were on here, they'd say the most amazing thing is it takes 10 minutes to book a tee time, because everybody that calls up, whether they're from Pittsburgh or Toledo or for Chicago, and tells them why they are coming here, what their connection is to American Dunes, their service, what they believe in, and to have a golf course that manifests those values and combines the game that we love with the country that we love. And in the spirit of the experience, this is where Brian Idle and his great team comes in, and what they've created. And as fighter pilots, we work really hard. It is a very dangerous job. And our drinking experience is it's part of our culture, right? And it's reverent. It's where we, blow off steam. It's where we learn and continue to grow as fighter pilots without the formality of the debrief. It's historical, and it dates back to World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and these hallowed places where we come together. And we showed Brian and his team what a fighter squadron bar looked like. But we wanted to make it better. We wanted to bring people behind the curtain of what we get to experience as fighter pilots and make it wildly authentic. And what they created was amazing. And it is, I think, going to be one of the most reverent, authentic drinking experiences in all of golf, and maybe the country. And it has been such a blessing to have him involved in this project professionally, but also personally, our relationship. And I thought it was really appropriate that he was the one that got to introduce me and be a part of this. And, you know, as we close out, I want to invite all of you up to have a cold Budweiser with us, to spread the word about this special place called American Dunes that we've created up here. And it's been possible because of a bunch of guys from down there in South Florida that have stepped up to help this kid from Oklahoma for a course up here in Michigan. And we're really excited to have our, Hello World moment coming up on May 2nd. You'll see us. It's going to be a very wild and loud opening, and from Fox News to the Golf Channel and all these people that are coming here to unveil this place called American Dunes. So in closing, I would encourage everybody to check out Fly Into the Wind. I'm humbled probably the last 4 months, more so than I've ever been in my life, to hear the testimonials that are coming back from people around the country that have had the opportunity to read this book in these lessons. My one hope and prayer is that this thing finds its way to young people all over this country, because it's the hard lessons in life that I've learned that serve us well each and every day, and living by a code. And I think as fighter pilots, maybe one unique skill we have is the ability to prioritize, take in copious amounts of information at a very high speed, and figure out what's really important. And the journey of this book for the individual reader, that's what I've gotten back. I mean, pretty much ubiquitously, is it allows people to slow down and reevaluate their path, where they are, where they want to get to, and get back to the stuff that matters. Because in this world we live in, we're all drinking through a fire hose. And unless you defend the stuff that's important, our physical health, our relationships, our integrity, we'll, end up, like this boat without the rudder, that's just going and reacting to the forces of life that are around us each and every day. I will have Beth send out information on Fly Into the Wind. You can get it anywhere books are sold. They did come up with a 12-pack that are in golf courses all over the place. So I'll have her send out that information as well. And then also the link to patriotgolfday.com to get your golf course registered as a host facility. And all that does is it creates awareness. There are lots of different best practices that private clubs do, sending out information to their members, asking them to make a donation. Some people, put $50 on the bill, and it's a default out of the donation, wherever your heart moves you. But know that we'll pay that forward in the form of life-changing educational scholarships to these heroic military families. And I'll just close by saying, Beth, thank you for allowing me to share today. 2021 is going to be a great year for all of us, man. We're headed downhill with the vaccination and immunity and getting on the other side of this COVID thing. And I'm just blessed and I get to share among people that love this game of golf and who are in the business. And thank you again, Brian, for your support and all you do.
Thank you so much. That was very inspirational, and I am sure that there is not a dry eye on this call right now, and we thank you so much for your service. We thank you so much for being with us today. It was just put in the comments here that the bar was set very high for this season for all of our education, and it has been. And so thank you for all of that. Boy, what do I say except thank you, Colonel Dan, for everything that you have done and continue to do for our country, and for Brian for being such a great partner. And the fact of bringing the two of you together today on this call is very, very special for all of us. So don't forget to sign up for your credits, your education credits. You'll get a 1.5 points of education credits today. I put down in the comments where to go to on SurveyMonkey to get those credits, but you can also go to the website under education and hit education credits, and the link is down there as well. The password for today is the word honor, which is so perfect to have for our friend who is here for us today, because he's showing us what honor looks like. So thank you so much for that. We look forward to seeing you all on Monday, the 9th of March, for our first of our Heart-Led Leaders series with Tommy Spalding. And I look forward to seeing you all then, but have a wonderful week, and good luck, and God bless everybody. Thank you for being here today.